Shadow people in the kitchen. The recent dead returned, and a mysterious china cabinet that spells doom for an unsuspecting family. All that and more lies ahead. During my high school days, I had a close friend who lived right next door to a peculiar house that seemed perpetually marked with a for sale sign. It had earned a notorious reputation in our neighborhood, a place where residents would vanish in the dead of night, and the revolving door of owners never held steady for more than 6 months in consecutive years. One night, in the grips of boredom, my friend proposed an idea that was both thrilling and utterly foolish: exploring the vacant house next door. It had sat abandoned for a considerable stretch of time, and curiosity had finally led us to its doorstep. We made our way to the rear of the house, discovering a dog door that my friend could squeeze through. Once inside, he unlocked the main entrance, granting me access. The house itself is a relic from the 1950s, a vintage craftsman-style structure nestled in the heart of our older, more affluent neighborhood. My friend's home shared a similar architectural lineage. The kitchen featured a charming built-in breakfast table, positioned beside a large picture window that, in the moonlight, allowed a faint streetlight glow to penetrate the darkness. We seated ourselves at the quaint table, feeling quite brave and accomplished. As we whiled away the time with idle conversation, questions echoed in our minds, and we expressed them out loud. Why had we ventured here, drawn like moths to a flickering flame? And then, without warning, my friend's piercing scream shattered the stillness. In that instant, my vision was taken by a yawning void of impenetrable darkness. It wasn't just a matter of losing sight. My entire being felt enveloped in a sickening, bone-chilling coldness that seemed to penetrate my very soul. Panic surged through me, and I began to scream, my voice escaping my lips as an agonized cry. Through the inky blackness, I felt my friend's hand seize mine, yanking me forcefully in some unknown direction. Slowly, my vision began to return, and with it a warmth that contrasted starkly with the unearthly chill I had just endured. As my eyes focused, I noticed that we were outside. It was December, and by all rights the house should have been warmer inside than out, yet it had been just the opposite. Beneath the glow of a distant streetlight, I looked at my friend, his expression etched with fear and confusion mirroring my own. Desperate to make sense of the nightmarish episode, I implored him to recount what had just occurred. His tale was as bone-chilling as my own experience. As I had been talking, he said, a formless black entity, a shadowy figure bearing a vague resemblance to a girl, had crawled out from under the table and sat on top of me. I had groped around blindly, my eyes wide open but unseeing, trapped in a nightmarish realm of sensory deprivation. My friend's terror had spurred him into action, dragging me from the house and into the frigid night. To this day, we remain friends, occasionally revisiting the nightmarish memory that has never changed in its retelling. That story will never die. The palpable darkness, the paralyzing coldness, and the unsettling aftermath stayed with me for days, weeks, months, and even years, rendering me unable to shake an eerie feeling that lingered. That house remained a dark enigma, a place I could never approach again, leaving a haunting tale etched into my psyche, forever casting shadows into my restless nights. Vanishing families in a house that is perpetually for sale. Probably best to leave this one alone. Not long after my cousin turned 18, a tragic event would plunge our family into a bewildering supernatural mystery. It was a fateful car crash that claimed her life, leaving our hearts shattered and our lives irrevocably altered. She spent her last fleeting weeks in a hospital bed, battling injuries from the accident before finally succumbing to her fate. Her passing left an indelible void in our lives, and we struggled to come to terms with the abrupt loss of this vibrant young soul. My cousin had shared an exceptionally close bond with my dad's sister, our beloved aunt, who had always been a pillar of support for our family. The tragedy couldn't have come at a worse time for our aunt, as her home was in the midst of extensive renovation. The project had commenced before my cousin's untimely demise, and continued afterward. It was an inconvenient backdrop to our collective grief. Then, one ordinary day, the threads of the inexplicable began to weave themselves into the fabric of our reality. My aunt received a perplexing phone call while she was at work, the voice on the other end quivering with irritation. It was one of the construction workers, and his words sent shivers down her spine. He complained of a teenage girl who had become a haunting presence at the construction site, a ghostly figure that prowled the premises with disquieting regularity. The troubling part was that she had been showing up for weeks on end. It had become a pattern, and my aunt was just now hearing about it. Baffled and concerned, she couldn't help but inquire further, her curiosity tinged with a growing dread. She asked the worker for a detailed description of this girl, praying for some rational explanation to quell her mounting anxiety. Yet when the worker painted a picture of the intruder, the blood in her veins ran cold. The description he provided, down to the smallest detail, was an eerie mirror image of my cousin, who had tragically departed from our world just a few weeks earlier. The girl he described possessed long brown hair with a distinctive red baseball cap perched upon it. She wore denim dungarees and a puffy white jacket. These were the very garments that my cousin had been so fond of in life, and she wore them all the time. The worker's description was an unsettling match, a chilling confirmation of the impossible. Upon returning home, my aunt approached the construction workers with a photograph of my cousin. As she presented the image to them, the workers' faces twisted into expressions of profound astonishment. It was her, the spectral presence they had seen walking among them as a phantom of the past. Their affirmation left my aunt haunted by a myriad of unanswerable questions. Our family had never been predisposed to believing in the paranormal, but we were left reeling from this inexplicable event. It defied all rational explanation and challenged our understanding of the world. It remains a mystery we may never unravel. I just hope that since then, she's found peace.
It's always nice to get a visit from family. Unless they've been dead for months.
It all began roughly a month ago when I visited my girlfriend's house. From the moment I stepped into the living room, a strange unease washed over me. It was as if an invisible weight pressed down on my shoulders, like the air itself was heavy. I soon found the source of my discomfort. My girlfriend's family had recently replaced a china cabinet with a piece of furniture that had once belonged to her grandmother, who had passed away a few months earlier. Her grandma had been bedridden in the hospital, and I had never had the opportunity to meet her in person. Despite this, the mere presence of her belongings in the room filled me with anxiety and a strange sadness. When I finally mustered up the courage to tell my girlfriend about it, she kind of brushed off my concerns with a casual, "Oh, it's probably nothing." Seizing the opportunity while she went to the bathroom, I approached the cabinet for a closer look. It stood about 6 feet tall, constructed from dark wood, and featured 2 side doors and a glass front, and the entire back was lined with a single mirror. As I examined the cabinet's contents, teacups and small baby dolls, I caught sight of something chilling. In the mirror behind me, I could have sworn I saw the silhouette of someone standing there. I felt panic, and I called out to my girlfriend, my voice trembling with fear. But just as I did, an ear-splitting screech pierced the air, emanating from the bathroom. Without a second thought, I began pounding on the bathroom door, demanding entry. I finally got it open, and I saw my girlfriend huddled on the floor, tears streaming down her face. She, too, had seen someone in the bathroom mirror, an apparition that had reduced her to a state of inconsolable distress. That was more than enough for me. We fled her house, leaving behind our shoes, jackets, everything. We dashed to my car. I started it up, I threw it in drive, and squealed the tires getting out of that place. We drove aimlessly for more than an hour, our minds still grappling with the shock of all that had happened. When we finally returned to her house, we saw her mother sitting on the doorstep. There was a look of dread etched across her face. She explained that she too had been experiencing things in the house. Shadows had been moving within. None of us wanted to go back inside, knowing that whatever was in that china cabinet had now been set loose on the entire house.
Mirrors are often seen as doorways to the dead. Take care where you cast your gaze.